All right, welcome to episode 5 of It's Server Time. This week we are joined by Bleh, best known for his commentating at ROG Masters 2017 India Online Qualifier number 2. Great stuff from you, Bleh, there. I think everyone really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I actually don't even remember the event, but I'm sure it was fun. I'm sure it was good. Some fantastic Counter-Strike right there.
Who won?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't even remember the event. Yeah, I need to look this up. I'm curious right now. Hold on.
Entity Gaming won it. Entity
Oh
Gaming.
yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. It was pretty bad CS.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
those guys. Yeah.
All right, but yeah, if you guys aren't familiar with Bleh and his work, he's kind of the Asian CS expert and is frequently talent on Dreamhack broadcasts, where he was most recently on the desk with me at Dreamhack Open Fall 2020. Good time. And we're gonna jump into that though, but that's good enough. I don't know where I was gonna go with that one, but we're just gonna live with that there.
You tried.
Yeah, I just okay. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Jet lag, players throw it out all the time. I can do it now too. So that's my excuse. Given that this my background and where I am is in the UK right now. So
I already have plans to talk about jet lag. So
okay,
fine.
all right.
Okay, Alex, you'll come back stronger.
yeah. All right, so let's just get into it. All right, no more small talk because I don't even know how to do that anymore. Apparently. All right, why is Heroic this good? Bleh, let's start with you. What are your thoughts?
Heroic. Look, here's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to get an entire online LAN thing yet, right? It's been done to death right now. I'm still gonna wait for 2025 when we finally get to play LAN to know if they're good or not. But I just think they're pretty comfortable. I think they're like just a pretty comfortable team. I feel like Caden's really found his groove, so to speak, with this particular lineup. And one more thing I like about his team, at least from what we've seen so far recently, is it's a good mix. It's a good mix of, I don't know if I can swear in this podcast, but it's a good mix of fuck you Counter-Strike and good structured, really solid CS, which you all like to study and watch. At the same time, I like how they just give a little bit of a smattering of screw you, we're better individuals than you are, which is something which I feel is kind of missing actually in some of the top teams out there. I think that could be maybe an explanation for why they're good.
Yeah, I think it's a good blend of their Danish style that sort of emulates some stuff from Astralis. They also Cadian is a really good X factor for them as well. I think Glaive even mentioned it after their last match, but Cadian can take over games when he's really feeling it, and that sort of gives them another level that they have their tactical style that sort of is very consistent. And then if that isn't working for them, or if they want to change it up, Cadian can also hit that next level that sort of lets them look completely different on either side of the map.
They have a really solid set of players. Really make use of the Katie and Hunden combination they have kind of going on in terms of the building the team and stuff. With that whole young core going on in terms of the rest of the players. I think it really allows Cadian to be super comfortable. Just in terms of playing with the op and being able to go for aggressive stuff and not being scared to play however he wants to play or make the calls he wants to call. I definitely think I do want to see how they translate to LAN once that eventually happens again. Not because I think that they're onliners or anything, but just because I think naturally as a team, because they're a younger team, once they go to LAN, at least for the first few months or so, I definitely think it'll be more of a struggle than it currently is now for them, just kind of adjusting to that. But I think eventually they would. So I don't think they'd be number one straight away on LAN, but I definitely think they'd still be a really good team because I think they just have a really well composed team right now.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see a couple of their players on LAN, Tessus in particular, if he can maintain some of the individual ability that he has on LAN when the pressure is really on, when the lights are in his face. That would be impressive to me the most. I think one thing about Heroic that I really love is that I feel like there's been 3 teams in my eyes that have kind of been top online teams in this era. It started the year with G2, then Big had a run at it. Now it feels like it's Heroic's turn. And I feel like all 3 of them had really good ideas in every round as to it was almost like it was obvious what their win condition it was in the round, how they were going to get involved in the round. They had a plan. They have plans going into enough of their rounds that allows them to kind of have streaks online. G2 was anti-stratting the hell out of everybody for a while, so they would call strats that were based off of that. Big kind of just worked in packs, and then they would have these like really fucking bombarding flash plays onto bomb sites or to just take space. And Heroic also kind of like a nice. They've kind of actually moved away from as many set plays or execs. I would say like they're a little bit more defaulty than they were. I'd say 6 months ago, but they still have those in their back pocket. So it's cool to see that they every round really know like where are we going to find our frags. It feels like they're very conscious of that. And for a team like, I guess we could move on from this. Like a team like Fnatic or something, like you don't always actually know when you're watching them like what was their plan this round. It's just they just kind of sent their 5 members out and we're like, let's hope for the best here. So let's just talk about the second place team here, Vitality. So why Vitality has now consistently kind of been a second place team. It feels like they're a little bit cursed actually lately. Second place at Cologne, second place at Dreamhack, second place at CS Summit, second place at the Blast Premier European Finals. Like, what is happening with this team? Why can't they get over the edge? Because they keep making it to the finals.
It's the same problem that like I always have with Vitality. It's just that it's ZywOo, and then it's 4 players that aren't like terrible or anything, but like they don't have like a second player that is able to just consistently like or ever just be able to step up and be like a star at times. You know, not even like a superstar like ZywOo, but just like able to step up.
And
have,
Electronic,
like,
for example, right?
Yeah, not even Electronic.
Not even
like,
that good. Yeah.
Right.
like an Ethan at least, like
Like
something like that.
Like an Ethan. All right.
Like literally, like
I mean,
literally just someone that can at least be like, you know, around that level to help ZywOo and occasionally step up. I feel like would make a world of difference in these games, because I watched Vitality and I think with Alex they had good calling, with Apex they have good calling. I think they have really solid team play. I watched them play Heroic and it seems like they're consistently like making the right calls and right decisions, but there's just not enough fragging besides ZywOo still consistently, especially over a 5-map period. It's just they really don't have enough compared to some of the other teams around this level.
I mean, like, look at the stats from that grand final between Heroic. Like, for Heroic, every single one of their players top fragged on a different map. Yeah. And then you look at Vitality. ZywOo has like 127 kills, and then the next closest person is shox at 93. And I think 4 Heroic players were over 110 kills. Like, it's just the kill distribution between those players is just not enough to be able to make up for that ground. Like, ZywOo can't be the only player posting that sort of numbers. There has to be at least one player up there with him. Or
it's actually why I'm really glad they've gone with like a 6-man roster instead of like completely like changing a player and like completely, you know, messing everything up. Because I think they've always played pretty good CS, and so I'm actually pretty excited to see, and I really want to see them start to use Navarra a lot more, because you know I think he might fit in pretty well. He seems a pretty versatile player, and I'm excited to see like if he could provide that kind of fragging that they need.
I'm actually curious to see who's going to be replacing in the short term, right? Like they did say he's going to be like replacing a certain player in a certain map, but I have to agree with you guys. I have to agree that Vitality has a team that look good, but yeah, individually, like shox, I feel like has been having kind of like a resurgence recently. He has been looking really good, but like you said, not as consistently as we would like. But if you had to pick between, like, let's say you can't take Apex, I would still put shox there. You're not going to touch ZywOo, obviously. So yeah, RPK, misutaa. I like how misutaa played in the final couple of games for Vitality. I feel like it's really grown into his role, kind of into the team, into the structure that they have. And I gotta say, I hate to call out plays individually, but RPK was very quiet for me in this event in Dreamhack Open Fall. And there was a lot of maps being played there, right? It was like, 17, 18 maps being played by the team, even though they just played the upper bracket. And I feel like RPK was kind of quiet. There were no moments where it seemed like he really stepped up, or there was a moment where he was like shutting down, or if there was a shutdown happening or a round being opened up, it was never him. It was either shox having a moment, ZywOo being himself, or maybe misutaa, for example, the B bomb site, having a lot of highlight moments. RPK was kind of quiet, but I feel like at the same time he is a guy who enables a lot in the team as well. So for me, it's a conundrum. Like, yeah, I would like to see Navarra, see what this kid's got in this lineup. Who are you gonna take out here apart from shox and ZywOo?
I wouldn't mind RPK coming out for little stretches because actually at the beginning of the DreamHack event, RPK looked pretty decent against a couple teams.
It was against Mausports, I think.
Yeah, he looked good against Mouse. He looked good against Big. It kind of feels like certain games he'll just turn up for a little bit more. Like it's almost like if he's more comfortable with the matchup or something, I think he does really well in those. Like if RPK knows what your exec is, I think he can just tear it apart sometimes. But if he is if he's caught out a little bit more, he has a really hard time. Like he's not raw enough in ability that he can just recover in the middle of a round and be like, okay, if he knows what's happening, he's gonna own. If he doesn't, like he's a bot, honestly. And that sometimes happens to him where it's just like he's not ready for certain kind of circumstances in my eyes.
I think the 6-man roster is a pretty good way for Vitality to deal with this situation, though, because like RPK is 27 years old. Like he's approaching that age where like he might step back or play a little bit
older
less.
than that. Jesus.
I also thought he was older. I had to check, but yeah,
I was like, that was young.
Almost
I
30.
was so much younger.
He's
I thought
31.
he was almost 30.
He's 31, dude.
He's 31. He's 31.
No,
He's
way.
looking at.
What is
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I misclicked the wrong player. You're right. He's 31. That makes far more sense. Okay, so he's definitely approaching the age where he would get close to dipping out. And I think having a player like Navera being able to come in and sort of see the structure that they have and sort of adapt and work off of that and potentially like groom himself as a replacement for RPK eventually. That's a pretty good path for Vitality to take, whether it's RPK he ends up replacing or not. Just in general, being able to sort of see the structure that the team has and eventually plug into it and learn from the sort of experience that RPK has. That could work really well.
How good is Navera though? Like, I mean, apart from obviously being related to Scream,
he's legitimately pretty good.
I think he's very good.
Watched him on Heroics, Heretics.
Okay.
Heretics. He's a pretty versatile player. I think he was like an Opera before, and then he's like rifling on Heretics as well. So he's done like quite a bit of stuff. I think I'm kind of curious. I'm not really sure yet, like how he'll slot in. I think that'll kind of come to us as like Vitality actually, because I have no idea how they even plan to use him. So I think it'll become a lot more clear once they actually start to use him, how they're going to use him, because they'll even be able to use him as like a secondary opera as well. So it'll open up a lot for them.
Yeah, he's from what I saw, because I saw I saw a series of him at DreamHack, or not DreamHack, at CS Summit, and he's in like the short time I saw him, he hit several, in my opinion, 10 out of 10 difficulty op shots. And if you can actually have a player that is kind of as good at op, is like, so shox has kind of picked up the secondary op sometimes on Vitality, and it's been to mixed results, I would say, at best, right? Like he has glimpses where it's like, oh, shox is back. Okay, like the very first series of this event, I think against Mausports that Vitality played, shox just dominated it. But then Mausports came out in last place at this event, so it's like, I mean, it looked legit, right? But I'd say Navera could probably do that against teams that aren't Mausports. Like he could do it against a couple other teams too. And if you have a secondary guy like that, I think that could be really something. And he did put the op down for a while for Heretics. I forgot who on that roster picked it up for a minute, but
Maka.
I know it was
Maka's the other upper, isn't he?
Okay.
He's like the main upper generally.
Oh. Yeah, well, I'm just not as familiar with it. And then so we know he can do both, and I know his rating was actually pretty solid when he was rifling more. But it's like it's tough where I feel like Vitality in a lot of rounds just they do support ZWoo. Like, don't get it wrong, but like they don't. It's almost like if ZWoo doesn't just carry them
for like 4 players to still just hover like a 0.99 rating.
Exactly. Like there needs to be a little bit more of some cohesion on parts of the map that aren't just the ZWoo centric spot, right? Like if ZWoo's opping B, they need to be competent at holding a 3-man A setup on Mirage, right? Like when he's not there with them. It feels just so weird that if you play the avoid ZWoo game, you actually do better than playing the avoid simple game, for example. It's just like there needs to be more agency and more ability from the other players on Vitality.
I was watching Vitality on Nuke, like their their CT or T side, I think it was their CT side, and like there's round after round, they're just like they're not even getting like a clean round on their CT side, so it's just hurting their economy like the whole time. They're struggling, like they'll get like 4v2s and they'll still manage to lose like 2 people or something. And ZywOo will get like 3 kills 4v2, and then just somehow they still lose it like 2v4. And just it's like if one person can just step up and be like a second star and consistently get kills, it literally could just make such like a world of difference in Vitality. It literally could be like that little bit that just gives them like 2 or 3 extra rounds a half.
I'm gonna change the server really briefly. I'm gonna change it to US Central. Let's see. Did that fix anything?
It's gonna make a difference.
It did not change anything. All right, this is a Discord thing. All right, I think the audio is fine, so if people are listening, it doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of threw this off just a little bit. I wanted to bring up this question where it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison by any means, but I still wanted to throw it out there because I feel like the situation for both of these players resembles each other in misutaa and Perfecto, because they both are kind of just these young players that were just kind of picked out to slot in on teams, kind of in not always the most ideal circumstances, I would say, but then they just had to fill a role and they had to just do their best at it. Who do you think right now is doing better among the two of them, misutaa versus Perfecto?
I haven't caught as many like Navi games live as I could to probably say like for sure. My instant reaction is to say I overall think Perfecto's a better player still. Even when I was watching like Vitality T side on their overpass, I felt like misutaa kind of was playing a bit of a risky game, like in that connector on T side, just kind of like as his own lurker. So at times I kind of felt like he was a bit too much and kind of costing his team rounds, just kind of like inexperience, taking too many like duels maybe he shouldn't. So overall, just in terms of playing like valuable to the team, I think Perfecto probably is a little bit more well-rounded as a player, at least just in my mind currently.
I feel like that also is because of how it depends on the team as well, right? I feel like for our Vitality, like the counter for that would be how we played the Dust 2B bomb side and CT side. I think it was fantastic. I'm talking about, of course, misutaa. I think he was playing his role. He wasn't over peaking, he wasn't over facing. And there were moments where a younger player might break, right? They just might go for that peak. They might get a little too nervous, but he wasn't. He was showing a lot of maturity, I feel like. I do agree that on the T side, there were a few plays where it was a little questionable, but I feel like it's an unfair comparison because like we spoke about Vitality and we speak about how you have only ZywOo as a consistent player, so there's a lot of pressure on all the other 4 individuals to kind of like have that moment in that round or that map. You look at Na'Vi, and I know it's a meme that it's usually simple, but there is electronic. You can't deny the fact that this guy is still way more consistent as a high fragging or a high impact player than any of the other 4 players on Vitality, right? And you have electronic there, you have Simple over there, and I feel like the other 2 players as well. You talk about Flamey and Boomich as well. I think they do have a bigger output compared to the other players. So I feel like for Perfecto, he's in a better position, if that makes sense, right? He never seems to be the one liability for the Na'Vi side. If it failed, it's like, yeah, Simple played, everyone else sucked, or Simple had a bad game and the team just crashed. There's never a point where I want to put, or I feel like putting a blame on the Perfecto, and that's also because, like I said, he works in that system, in that high fragging, high skill ceiling team of Na'Vi. So yeah, I feel we need to have that caveat in, and if you bring that in, it just feels like an unfair comparison between these two.
I've watched less of misutaa, but for Perfecto specifically, I think his individual decision making is just really good for a team that has that sort of high fragging capability, because he knows that he doesn't have to be one of those players who steps up. And so his decision making is usually very, very smart. He tends to play to live a lot, which gives Na'Vi a lot of time to rotate in. He gives himself time to get flashed. If he's anchoring somewhere, he gives his rotators time to come back. So just in general, with the way Perfecto plays, I feel like he's the better player at the moment. That might change as misutaa gets more experience, but I think you're right, Bleh. They do have slightly different roles, but in terms of being able to compare them on the 2 rosters, I still think Perfecto has the edge, even with more experience under misutaa's belt. Perfecto is just going to develop a little bit better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The question wasn't necessarily totally fair because they aren't playing the exact same spots or anything like that.
Mhm.
I think that I've actually seen more glimpses of raw, just pure mechanical ability from misutaa, yet he has actually a worse rating. So that probably means, and basically from the eye test as well, he kind of does make a couple more risky decisions here and there, where I don't think he always gauges the situation as well as Perfecto does. Like Perfecto will almost always take the safer route, and he's actually rewarded for that. Whereas misutaa, sometimes he feels like there's an opening, and then he's just instantly punished for it. And then it's just like, okay, well, like he's not a star player for the team, but he kind of has moments where he acts like he is, maybe for just an instant here and there. But he's just, I mean,
it's also funny because they're in like completely different teams in terms of like how well structured each team is, in my opinion, at least. Mm-hmm. Like I think Vitality is a lot more well structured and has a lot better team play overall than Navi does. So in that way, it is kind of impressive from Perfecto to kind of be able to be that kind of like stable player on like a unstable team like Navi is at the moment.
Yeah.
Also, like on your note where you're saying that misutaa feels like he has an opening and tries to take advantage of it, like a lot of teams, I feel like this came from Astralis and their dominant period, but like a lot of teams are very good at making it seem like there's an opening when really they're adapting off of that, or they're actually holding for that and trying to bait a player into it. And if they do it correctly and you have a player like misutaa who thinks he has that opening, he's sort of just falling into that trap. And so Perfecto's passive style is sort of like, it just counters that entirely because he's just playing safe rather than trying to capitalize on every individual opening. So,
I mean, he does have one of the best like death per round stats in international Counter-Strike as well, right? The guy just doesn't die at all. So yeah,
that's pretty nasty. Okay, speaking of Astralis, let's they came in third at Dreamhack Open Fall Europe 2020, and they lost to HooXI. They actually lost 2-1. That the first map, Nuke, really could have gone either way, but HooXI did end up winning that series, and this is kind of a swan song, I guess, for Esatag on this roster. I think he did overall, I think everyone can be pretty satisfied with how he did, but what do you guys make of this look for Astralis, and just how do you guys think moving forward, is it going to be a slight, I mean, Xyp9x is coming back, and we can all assume that the potential is best team in the world again, but like, do you think they're going to take a hit in the short term?
Just depends on how Xyp9x plays and how he's feeling when he comes back. Because Esatag was playing pretty well in his spots, so I assume if Xyp9x comes back and he's feeling well and he's feeling on it, the break's done him well, then I think they'll come back and they'll be really fucking good because they're Astralis and he'll know how to fit in pretty well right away.
Yeah, they just still have years of experience at this point, right? So like as long as Xyp9x is feeling himself when he comes back in, I think he'll click in perfectly fine. Just you don't just lose that sort of you don't lose that sort of chemistry with a few months.
I'm more wondering about how long Bubsky's going to be like their social media guy right now at this point, right? I like the memes, man, but it's almost like that entire thing about like, I believe more than this Vitality 6-man roster, be really, including Nevera and playing the maps. I believe in that more than Astralis is really going for the 6-man, 7-man roster, honestly. Because with Xyp9x coming back, 100% you're going to put him on the main team, right? Now, Bubsky, he's just sitting there doing nothing. So it's kind of weird for me. I know it's a little bit of a tangent here. But yeah, I have to agree with the rest of you as well. Xyp9x coming in, I think, it might take a couple of weeks. I feel like this event was Astralis. It's not like they weren't trying, but there was it's a very vague thing for me to say, but it's almost like there was no that killer instinct, if you know what I mean. Like when it push comes to shove, when it gets these really close games, Astralis, we know they're closing those games out. That Nuke is a map that Astralis would probably win 9 out of 10 times. But with Esatag playing his final game, maybe it was lacking that. I'm not going to put the blame on him or the team, whatever, but I feel like I want to see how the new Astralis is going to be doing, new, old Astralis, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to gauge too much in the, rather infer too much from this result in Dreamhack. It was still a top 3 placing, still a great showing overall. It could have been a 2-0 as well in that lower bracket finals against HooXI. So overall, good showing considering it's the last event and whatnot. But I feel with Xyp9x coming in, apart from the fact it might take a little bit for him to get used to it, to get back into the groove of things, I feel like they're going to be even more dangerous than they were with S-Attack.
Yeah.
Like, the way I see it is that teams like FaZe can sort of shine when they have no pressure on them in these sort of situations. Like, if they know they're a dead roster going into a tournament, like, they're playing with no pressure, whereas it doesn't really work as well for a team like Astralis with the sort of structure that they have and the sort of chemistry they have. They just, like, they can play free, but it's just not going to be as beneficial as a style to them as it is to a team like FaZe, for example.
True.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, well, the individuals on the side of Astralis, they were popping off. Like Device and Dupree they were really on form. So it's like the players looking good. It's just that little bit of that missing link, which I feel should be filled in the next couple of weeks.
Clutch minister.
There we go.
This way.
I think what's interesting is we're framing this like Astralis didn't do what they should have at this tournament, but they still came in third place. Like, they still did really well.
That's Astralis, right? Listen, if the Clutch Minister was playing, they're winning that nuke. I'm just calling it. They're winning that fucking nuke.
Yeah. It's man, it's so scary actually. The fact that like I felt like they were playing like kind of free actually. Like, okay, the way they played against Vitality in the upper bracket game where they just ran over them on nuke, just that T side was beautiful. That was crazy. If anyone wants to see what peak just firepower Astralis can look like, that map in particular definitely is something to look back at. Like, they absolutely handed Vitality's ass to them on a platter. Like, that was just such a beatdown. And it's a shame they couldn't like replicate that performance against Heroic to close out that lower bracket final game. Because maybe then, I mean, who knows? Like, they probably would have won the tournament in my opinion, but they didn't. So that's just that.
It's a sight to see when Astralis just starts plowing through a tournament.
I know.
Glaive has like a 1.50 rating. You know, it's just you don't have a chance.
Yeah, Glaive at this tournament, like, they're doing this thing right now that it's like Magisk is calling some of the maps, and I think Glaive right now is only calling for T-side nuke. And I feel like that should just change back. Like, that they should just revert that back, surely. Like, I think they said that in an interview, but to me it felt like every day I bet they're making Glaive call a little bit more. Like, why? I think he said that at the very beginning of the tournament. There was some interview, but whatever. Let's move on because we're going to see a different Astralis at the next tournament anyway. So, fourth place actually, NIP, and I think this was a surprise to a lot of people. Probably everybody on the desk. We all kind of were like, NIP, they're bringing Knockback. I think this was the first tournament that he's back on the roster because Threat was filling in for him. And actually, they looked solid. Like, they were a team.
I was on the NIP train. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Did you wait? What'd you say? You said they were gonna like be top 3, right? You're pretty close.
I was something like that. I wasn't fully on, but like I had the right idea.
Yeah, you almost called it. You almost called it. They were gonna be there. Yeah, that was a good call. That was like they. Okay, I mean, okay. What do you guys think of their performance? What do you guys think?
I just really like watching them play because I just love their style. I think they have like a really good understanding of everything that's happening across the map, like just kind of like the Threat style. Like, they know like across their T sides, like their lurkers are like so on point. Like Rez towards A, Twist towards B. Like, I was so impressed how they're just like using each other and just playing off each other and just consistently we're just like finding openings against EG just based off of that, just consistently working off each other on other sides of the map, and just I was just really impressed. They just had like a really overall, their game plan like made a lot of sense. Like, the things they do made a lot of sense. I understood everything that was happening in the game, and I felt they had a really good cohesion going on.
I don't know. I when they're winning, it looks good, right? It looks really good, but I feel like they're a little too streaky for my liking. I'm still gonna stick by my guns that the map pool isn't as robust as I would like it to be. There are a few maps that are very comfortable on. Like, we saw the nuke performance coming out from there. Who was it against? Was it against OG? Yeah, they smashed OG 16-4 right on nuke. But if you look at the overall stats on that map, it's still pretty abysmal. And that's the problem. When they pop off, it looks fantastic. Like, Knock, Rez being a beast. Like you said, the T side, the way they're floating around, the way they work as a unit is great. But it's too streaky for me. Like, you look at this, what happened today, like an hour back, where they just got smashed by Navi after winning on Overpass, right? Overpass map, they're really comfortable on, they win on it. And they barely put up a fight. Mirage and Nuke, 16-9, 16-4. I mean, sure, Simple showed up. Sure, Electronic had a pretty decent game, but that's a problem with the NIP. I feel like they're too streaky overall. And again, individually, Rez is amazing. He's fucking amazing, right? Then you have Nok, who has been very, very stable. That CD side opping is fantastic. Apart from that, I think it's a classic Vitality conundrum where who else is there, right? Nok as an opper, he's not as consistent as we'd like him to be, but we understand as a hardcore opper, sometimes it doesn't click, sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe you start on the T side of train, maybe you're not getting the money, maybe your money's getting broken, you don't have your weapon of choice. Then you have Rez. Who else? Plopsky, Hampus, Twist. They have their moments, but again, you need that secondary. Doesn't even have to be a star player, right? A secondary guy you can rely on to get consistent, like 18 to 22, 23 kills, kind of most of the times help support Rez. I feel these things are holding them back, which is kind of weird for me because you look at the names, you look at Plopsky, and you're like, you should be that player, and even Twist for that matter. And I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't change anything in this team, but I feel like they still need to get that consistency in the players, in their map pool, and also winning games consistently, and where it's no longer a surprise for us, right? The low bracket run was fantastic, but every game they won, we're like, whoa, okay, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Right? Every single time. And for that to kind of be kind of like swept away, we need to see a little bit more of a consistent performance from them overall. Blast, it's gone wrong for them. So maybe the next event, maybe the next couple events, end of the year, maybe that's when I'm going to be like, okay, this is a team who can kind of be more consistent and be up there in the top 10 right now.
I think they're still just trying to find their identity. Like, I still think the roles are still a bit like they have like versatile roles, but also kind of comes out like an identity crisis. There's like a lot going on. There's like a lot of different things they can do with their players, a lot of different positions, and so at times that can create kind of a problem in itself, and just that it's kind of hard to find a consistent answer on across the maps, and it's kind of hard to find a consistent style and like a consistent pattern that is leading you to wins and stuff. And so go ahead.
I'm really hesitant to get high up on NIP during this online period because I feel like this is very similar to what happened the last time that Threat was able to talk at any point. Just the fact that they're pretty good at stabilizing when Threat can just calm the entire time. And once we go back to LAN and the coaches can no longer calm for the entire round, I'm really hesitant to say that they'll be able to maintain the same level of form, because a lot of the situations that they're coming out on top of are ones where Threat is still talking in the background. Like you can see in their Blast player comms that Threat is communicating a lot for these players. And I'm just really hesitant to think that they can keep the same trajectory if Threat cannot calm during matches.
If that's the case, I think the case for Hampus gets even more damning, right? Like I was looking to give him the little bit of benefit of doubt, saying he's calming, he's calling, he's trying to make it work for his team. But yeah, with Threat calling all the time, then you have Hampus being included in the equation. I'm like, guys, you need to frag. It's an FPS end of the day. You need to shoot some heads.
Yeah. Speaking of the consistency with them, I mean, Bleh, you were praising Rez, but he is like Mr. Inconsistent for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking back to that OG series, okay, he went 28-8 on Nuke. One of the best, and he had a 2.26 rating for that game. And it's like, okay, Rez is feeling it. This is super scary. Everybody better watch out. Very next map, he goes 10-14. Like, if you're feeling it on that day to that level, that you have one of the best rating maps of your life to just start the day off and get a 0.93 rating for the next match or the next map, it's like, what happened? Like, what the hell happened? And I feel like that's how Rez has been for me for a long time now, where I feel like he's been kind of a specialist almost on certain maps. And then like he'll just fall off completely on other ones. But then I look at his map stats and it's not actually as consistent as I thought. I thought it was like I personally thought he was really good at like Nuke, Overpass, Train. But then I look at the stats and it's like, okay, he's actually pretty good at Overpass. He's like so at Train, actually kind of not great at Train. And then I think his Nuke was like all right, but
NIP's issue is like similar to Vitality's to me, but it's more like they just don't have a Zywoo, and then like the other players are just kind of like a step above everyone on Vitality. So it's like
Yeah, not having
the same thing for any
is a
other team,
big problem from every team.
Yeah, top tier analysis.
They could have been a good team. They just don't have a Zygu or a Simple. Well,
No, but I'm saying the rest of them are like a step above Vitality, right?
true.
Yeah, yeah.
But they just don't have like a player that is averaging a 1.4 to just elevate them to consistent top 2.
I think that actually fits into my narrative when I'm looking at his recent stats, right? Like Dreamhack Open was overall one of his more better tournaments overall. But now, if you, like you said, just looking back at his stats overall this year, suddenly the entire team now is just an inconsistent mess. If you think about it, Nok, yeah, he's been having good resurgence ever since he came back, but it's a problem right now for me.
They're all pretty up and down.
Yeah, very up and down. Performance-wise, individually, and you don't, like you said, you don't even have a ZywOo. And on top of that, once LAN play does eventually come around, if they're struggling right now in the online era, yeah, I'm not really fancying the chances, to be honest.
I think for my closing thought on NIP is that they kind of like always, when you watch them play, have almost zero losing conditions in rounds. Like they like, they cross every T, dot every I, and they are very thorough about their procedures throughout taking map control, or like just how they even play some mid-late round situations. They're always like kind of playing off of each other. But at the same time, it feels like they don't have a player who is consistently that X factor in rounds. Kind of like ZywOo, kind of like Simple, kind of like how Yakinder's been playing, and like there's always like kind of like a star player. Like it doesn't feel like anyone is consistently rising above the rest and is like, I'm gonna take care of business. Like if that even happens, it just seems like that could easily blow up in their faces, because none of them individually have the confidence or the skill to continuously do that in rounds. Like it's like seeing little openings and just running with it. Like I saw like on Vertigo, like I saw Hampus do it sometimes, but then like he gets punished the next time he does that in a match. Like it's not like he can consistently do that. Yeah.
If they had like a Rez or a Nok or a Plopsky averaging like like a 1.15, 1.20 rating, so like a player that's like consistently kind of like around those levels, consistently like a star player, I think they'd be instantly shoot up to be a lot more consistent, which is pretty obvious because like better players, they're gonna be a better team. But considering they have like 5 players that I think are all have the potential to be pretty decent, I'd like to see at least one of them be like a consistent star.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So NIP, they also just played EG, and EG coming here from NA, I think they said they had 5 days to practice, but they lost to OG in their opener at Blast, and then they lost to NIP in the losers match. What have you guys caught of EG, and what are you guys, how does this feel for basically what is supposed to be the best NA team? Because I would consider Furia, South American.
I think it was really evident that EG hasn't practiced against European teams for a long time in the way that they were playing these series. Like you could tell that some of the gaps they had, they just weren't used to them getting exploited that quickly. And that's what was really catching them out in some of these matches. Like OG were good at capitalizing on some of these mistakes and openings, but at the same time, like once EG gets a little bit more time scrimming against European teams again, I think they'll be able to reach that level again. It's just that when you're practicing in North America for these many months and you're playing against the same 3 or 4 teams, there's only so much that you're going to be able to adapt through and be able to sort of be ready for. And with the amount of time that they were playing here, it's just they're not going to be ready for it immediately.
Yeah. And even Breezy, right? Like being super quiet individually in that matchup against Nip. That's something which he has been kind of quiet though. But I mean, like this is before the online era, like before they were like reigning North America recently. But then, yeah, I have to agree with you guys. Also, throwing a little bit of jet lag as well, I guess.
I was gonna say, like, just from what I saw them playing, I definitely think they need some more playtime getting in. EU, some more scrims. It just felt like I was watching their T sides and they were like really slow and a bit too obvious at times. They weren't controlling the rotates very well. Heroic. OG was reading them pretty well. They consistently were on the right sides, consistently counterplaying EG correctly, and it seemed like EG just didn't really have a good sense of how to control the rotates and a good sense of how to control the game in their own pace. It was kind of the same thing with NIP. It seemed like they were really struggling with that proactive CT side play that OG and NIP were like really throwing at them. they weren't really prepared for it to play it against it yet. And so I think it's just something that they need, because they definitely are like, it's not like they haven't played against it at all. Like they have been playing against Furia like over and over, so they've been playing against Art. So I'm sure they're somewhat used to that kind of proactive play, but it's a bit different in the way that OG and NIP do it compared to Art just like with an op holding W somewhere. So it's definitely still need to get a bit used to it.
Yeah, it felt like map to map for me when I was watching them. Like the way they started versus OG on Mirage, if I'm not mistaken, was just like they were really bad at handling like mid-late round situations, and like it almost felt like they put themselves in they got so complacent in that their post plants were just like I remember one post plant, for example, was like I think they had a player around default or something, and then they had one player at front triple and then a player on bench, and this was like it just felt like the shittiest setup I've ever seen in a post plant. Like usually you would just fight for jungle control or take some kind of fight at some point, but they just sat there and just waited to get pinched, and it was like really, like that was so weird. Then they played the next map on Inferno, and you can tell they talked about that because then they were a lot more proactive and smarter in the mid-late round situations, but then they kind of fell apart again. Like it just like they were not used to having to put that much effort into some of their like the tougher moments. They like whereas before, because I'm sure they've been playing NA competition and they can just kind of survive based off of their ability, that kind of shit works, but it clearly didn't when the level of competition, when like OG or NIP were able to break down some of the situations just a little bit more thoroughly.
Isn't it also like very telling that the city side Inferno is where they look the best in both the games? Right, it's very telling, right? So it's a map where the city side, it's something, if you know what you're doing, you don't really have to rely on what your opponents are throwing at you. You can do what you have to do to get that map control, to be a little bit more aggressive, not too hyper aggressive. And they were looking good on Inferno, but yeah, I have to agree with you. Like on the other maps where it's a little bit more different, that approach, it just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, like Overpass, I was watching them, and like they're like Tarek and Cirque on A side are usually like pretty solid. They usually do a pretty good job, but like they were constantly getting exploited by like Rez and just various lurkers, whoever, just constantly just getting caught off guard. Like their setups were bad. They weren't in the right spots. And then like on their T side, like for one, like they weren't controlling the rotates well at all. But even like there were some times where they were just trying to hit B like over and over and over, and it just wasn't working like ever. Like none of their hits worked. NIP was just shutting them all down. OG was just shutting them all down. Like they'd have like 4 people there. So definitely, they still need to feel out their macro a bit and kind of get that figured out, making better decisions.
Yeah, I think in that OG series as well, Mantu was getting a lot of picks onto them, whether it was opening picks or just in general. He's getting picks and being able to live very easily in a lot of situations. And I don't know whether that's just a mark of the series and Mantu playing really well, or whether it's going to be something that EG are just going to struggle with initially as they arrive in Europe, because in North America, the only players who are really opening rounds with the op like that would be like Art, Henny, and I don't really want to count Stewie or Cirque's on their team, right? So they haven't really played against an opper that's getting set up very well by their team, that's going consistently for those opening duels, aside from Art and Henny. Like Liquid don't have it, and then from there you're looking at like Gratisfaction, I guess, but past there's very few players who are at that sort of level with the op and are being set up very well by their team. So it's going to be, EG might struggle initially against some of these teams that have very good oppers and that are very good at setting those up. So that's also part of their adaptation of arriving there.
Keep shit talking the vanity op note. I see you. Fucking crazy.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. It pains me to say this, but I'm gonna bring it up. I guess. What do you guys think though is happening with Breeze? Because he is the second worst rated player so far in this initial group stage at Blast.
I'm just gonna say jet lag and just
2 best of 3s, man.
It's 2 best of 3s. But Breeze usually top, like he's usually at the top for EG. Like,
he's tired, bro. He's tired.
Simple had 2 back-to-back days with negative rating. You know what?
Simple did have that those days. He did have
two days back to back where he had a negative rating. So if you're gonna have that, Breeze can have a bad day.
All I'm saying is Perfecto with coronavirus did better than like
Jesus
if he struggles in the next event, you can start that. But after like 5 maps, this guy's like, what has happened to Breeze?
Jet lag's worse than coronavirus or a Counter-Strike player.
By the way, the event before that, Breeze had a 1.47 rating. So
I know. Well, okay. All right. Let's just chalk it up to that, and we'll
has
dive
Breeze fallen off?
We'll dive into this a little bit deeper if this kind of form continues. But I hope it does not, because I am a huge Breeze. I'm a stan, actually. I stan Breeze.
I was about to say I'm a Breeze stan.
Yeah.
An NA, you have to be.
Yeah, exactly. You do. All right. Let's move a little bit farther east in Europe to the Russians.
I thought you were gonna go to Asia there. Fuck, thank God.
No, not quite, Bleh. Maybe when there's an Asia Minor or something like that we can talk about. But
I want to be part of a podcast where I don't touch Asian Counter-Strike and lose brain cells for a change.
Well, you're here, and we don't really talk about that. We rarely make it this far east, actually. So we are going to talk about it. Virtus.Pr winning IEM, whatever this event is, IEM CIS, whatever the big label is. But it's Yes. Okay, let's just start with Yekindar. Yucky, my boy Yek.
Dude, I watched this guy on their CT sides. I love him so much. Like, this guy needs info. Like, he craves info. He needs something to happen. He's not just gonna sit back on their sides and just do whatever. Like, just sit back. You know, like, I'm sure that's probably a problem they had in the past with like a Dren and Jame. You know, maybe at times just too passive. But Yekindar, I'm watching this guy, and this guy's just holding W like the entire time. Like, he'll start at B site at the start of the round. I saw a round where he's like coughing, and then he rotated around the A to go like clear mid, and then he cleared mid and there was no one there. So instead he just like flanked mid, and then he flanked the B players. So he started the round playing Coffin at B, and then he ends up flanking them on the B exec by like going mid. And like, this guy's just all over the place. Like, he's just constantly just making shit happen, and he's actually just such a sick player mechanically too. Like, it's just so much fun to watch.
He's a CIS art.
His mechanics, like, if a report came out tomorrow and it said Yekindar caught for trigger botting, I'd be like, yeah, that totally makes sense to me. Yeah, like, this dude is so fast with the rifle, it's crazy. When so he gets aggressive, and then sometimes he'll just post in the middle of nowhere and just like spray down 2 people, or like just burst them both in the face as they're rounding the corner, and it's like, how the hell are you that good at rifling online? Like, it's actually unbelievable to watch. So I hope he succeeds, because that brand of Counter-Strike is always going to be entertaining. So yeah.
And in comparison, like, watching VP and watching Yekindar, and then watching like Navi in comparison, it just felt so uninspired at times from Navi.
Yes.
Compared to watching Yekindar, it seemed like VP had so much going on. Like, they had so much diversity with this lineup now. Like, it's so much better than no like disrespect to a Dren, but it's a lot better than the previous lineup with a Dren and Yekindar. This one with Buster, I think overall just has a lot more skill, a lot more diversity to it, and it's just a ton of fun to watch and see what they do with it.
What was their last good event before IEM? I'm just looking.
Well, they won the Flashpoint 2 close quali, actually, which was actually surprisingly stacked in terms of like EU competition. I would say, like, a lot of
I didn't expect them to win unless they just came out and came back to like good form coming out. So it's looking good for the moment.
Kind of stacked, but yeah, I mean, again, it's always the usual case.
Stack for a qualifier. Right. I'll say stack for
yeah, fair enough. But then when the best known names here are going to be, let's say, a Godsend or a North, or you have a Saw and an Endpoint over there, you're like, really?
I wouldn't say it's like mega stacked, but I think what that indicates is that what they brought into that tournament was definitely solid enough that when we see them play at Flashpoint, we're gonna, like, you can expect that they're not gonna just like fall on their faces or anything like that. Like, they beat Godsend, and Godsend was like, I was kind of thinking, like, who is Flashpoint going to invite to this? And I was like, Godsend wouldn't be a bad team to invite, like, or anything. Like, they'd be solid to watch there. And the fact that VP's just like, get the hell out of here, they handled them. So,
I mean, just like looking at the list for Flashpoint 2 here, there's maybe 3 teams I can see beating VP, or like giving them a good shot. So I think they have a very good chance of placing high in this tournament. But like, I'd
Who are
say
those 3 teams? Can you just tell me?
Big, Fnatic. Whoa! What is this laughter at? Okay.
The third?
Sorry, I would pick North with MSL, but he's not in here. I don't know. I would say Big, Fnatic, and Cloud9 is hard to say just because we haven't seen them play yet. Like,
wait, didn't you bring an OG there? You didn't mention OG?
OG as well. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
That'd be like those 3, and then Cloud9 depending on how they play. But I haven't seen them play yet, so I can't really make that a statement.
We haven't lost a round.
I think Yikinder's pretty nuts.
Lots of professional round.
Yeah.
So, he's the sort of player I'm interested in seeing like the time to kill stats for, like the stats that HLTV doesn't really track, or at least doesn't have displayed publicly. Like some of the time to kill, time to like his spray down accuracy, stuff like that is very, very high. So those stats would be interesting to sort of dig up and analyze for him specifically.
You need the Leadify stats for this.
Yeah,
one.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess that brings me to the question though. So I would say Note kind of gave his prediction already. So Bleh, looking at the Flashpoint 2 team list, where do you see Virtus.Pr finishing? And yes, I have to say it like that.
Pro, all right.
Just because that guy at Epicenter said that one time. He's like, Virtus.Pr. I'm pretty sure, actually. Yeah, it's fine.
I don't even know the format, dude. I'm such a terrible analyst.
It's really thorough, and okay, just like without even knowing the format, it's like it does a good job to make sure that the best teams will come out on top. So almost like in your ranking here, if you just ranked it here.
All right. Quickly, you have your ForZe, you got OG, you get Fnatic, Gen.G. We don't even know what the fuck's happening there. I'm gonna say, unless like Cloud9, right, actually like just blow everyone's minds. This is a top 4. Yeah, it's actually the top 4 placing for me, at least based on the results like we saw in IEM. But again, it's always that like are they gonna continue that form? But I don't really see any other teams who are really challenging them. That's a problem. So yeah, top 4 for me.
But also it's online, so you just never know.
True.
Well, I mean, we do know that like C9, we're going to be in the finals. Like, it's probably at the very least. And then everyone's just fighting for everything else.
I saw the script already. We're already writing up the script for this tournament, and I don't know if Cloud9 is there.
Why would you write the script and not have Cloud9 win? What kind of script are you writing?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, well, we wrote it, and Dig makes it all the way.
I thought you were gonna say ForZe. Reward them for their.
It's Dig and ForZe in the finals.
Yeah. Reward ForZe for their good behavior.
And Contact comes in a hard fought third. Actually.
Who's even? Oh, MIBR. They got their lineup, didn't they?
I did want to mention one thing though about ForZe is that I actually am kind of pissed off about that. The fact that they hired
the coaching thing.
Oh,
fucking hell! Yeah,
if you guys want to say your piece about it,
because of my position, it's so dumb seeing these orgs that are just like letting these people that literally cheat. This guy cheated like 434 rounds.
times. Yeah,
like a week later, he's got another job. Like, what is this?
What's the name of the ForZe, the CEO, whoever tweeted out saying everyone who disagrees with this is a moron or something, right? He tweeted out about that, and I feel like, using his coach cam, he's got some compromising pictures of the CEO or something. That is literally the only fucking explanation. And then he sees everyone quoting like that tweet from ForZe, being like, "Hey man, they're making fun of me, insulting org, make statement." And then he's like, "Oh shit, okay, fine, I have to make a statement right now." I feel that is the only logical reason why you would go for this step. Like, even if you're gonna get this guy to like, train some of these up-and-coming kids or whatnot, why would you even make that public? It's not been a couple of weeks, for fuck's sake. This is 101. How not to do social media. How not to like... I don't even know what they're thinking, dude.
Like if it came out in like 3 months that like Zoner had been working with ForZe, like young like coach like weird team that I don't even care about. Like I probably would have saw it and been like, I don't care. Like I don't even remember this guy. But the fact that they did it like a week after and they're announcing it and like trying to defend it, it's like
I think the worst part as well is like if you look at certain other coaches who, you look at Furious coach for example, right? And then like how he was very open about it. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I take the punishment and whatnot. And then you have someone like Regin who didn't do it at all ever with mouse sports, but he's now been taken out. And then you find this guy. So I achieved 400 maps, but I shall start my tale of redemption by influencing young kids. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Redemption.
But I would be livid if I was any of the other coaches. And listen, CIS social media can be a little weird at times, but this one's a little too much, even for me.
I feel like I have to call out my my coworker Prof a little bit because I saw him tweet about comparing this to Steel, and it's just like it's not even a close comparison. You can't
listen,
compare it at all.
that was a
farmer's impression. He's farmer's impressions. I know what he's up to.
He had just been baiting.
That was
he knew what he's doing. He knew what he was doing.
Prof in the morning is equivalent to me after like half a bottle of tequila. That's like the only reasonable explanation.
Yeah,
for that.
That's what I was
thinking.
thinking.
Half a bottle of tequila before that tweet. I don't know.
When people said that was in the morning, I was like, geez, that felt like a buzz tweet at least, like for sure.
100%.
Like,
yeah,
it's one of those like I'm trying to be too woke for my own good kind of things. Like you got to just settle down, put the pint down, put it down. Yeah, think about the tweet. All right. I'm gonna choose not to give my prediction for Virtus.Pr because as an analyst for this tournament, I have to do it on broadcast. No, it's because I need to research what the hell like this Mad Lions team. I have to research a couple of these teams because I don't know what's going on.
Mad Lions,
dude, like, I am excited to watch. HooXI's been around for a while, and I have never looked at him as like sort of guy who would be picked up for this Mad Lions lineup. Honestly, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
so people just don't care about him.
He's an IGL, and him and refrezh were on the Copenhagen Flames lineup that came in dead last place at this tournament at the last Flashpoint at Flashpoint 1. And
they didn't play that bad though.
They didn't.
From what I remember
from the eye test, they
got a pretty rough group draw. Because I remember we eliminated them, and they definitely weren't like a bad team to play. There's definitely like I actually can call this actually having played them before. Played HooXI. I felt like Copenhagen Flames actually did have like a pretty solid way of playing CS. I feel like they were a bit too predictable in some fashion, so that's probably an area where I assume Peacemaker will be able to help HooXI out as well.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I felt like they played pretty good CS. I don't know if they'll be better than the last squad. That's something remains to be seen. But I think they'll be at least a solid team.
I just don't think get away with like a playoffs placement out of these teams because like maybe in the old format for Flashpoint, which is I think they're supposed to have 2 or 3 phase plays per group, like they reseed the teams and whatnot. But Monte Cristo did an interview with HLTV and he said that there's only going to be 1 phase play per group for this event, just for logistics and time reasons. And so like I could see a team like Mad Lions sneaking out in that sort of situation. I don't know if I see them sneaking out in this sort of pool of teams.
How many games have they played with this new lineup? I just see 2 maps.
Not many. Pretty new.
It's something like that. It's really new.
And even before when they had Innocent, the results weren't really that great when they had that Eden Arena tournament as well, right?
Yeah. So now they had like a full reset, got rid of Asilion, run on HooXI. See how it goes.
I want to throw this out there though, that the other 3 players behind HooXI and refrezh were Farlig, now on Godsent, pretty solid opper, and Tessis on the best team in the world. So if you're working with those pieces and your Copenhagen Flames then, like, probably should have had slightly better results. I know their group draw wasn't super easy, but they lost they lost to Contact. Okay, they lost to
guess, but like but I mean looking at the players that Mad Lions had surrounding them, fucking Shush, Acor, and who am I forgetting? Roche?
Bubsky. Oh, okay, yeah. Roy.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know why it's spelled like that. I don't know. Danish
I don't
names
know.
and their
actually
pronunciations.
Wait, Farlig and Acor were on at the same time?
No, I'm talking about Copenhagen Flames.
Copenhagen
Flames.
Flames.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I still think this lineup will be pretty solid.
I think it's okay. All right.
They'll get top 12 at this.
I think refrezh could be a bit underrated, by the way. I think he kind of fell off a bit. He fell off the radar
was a breakout
a bit
player, right? He was a breakout player from that the Fragsters roster. It was Bubsky, Dragonfly, refrezh. Who else was there? A couple of big names. I forget. But anyway, he was a breakout player, then he just like disappeared for a bit. But
I think Bubsky was there too.
Yeah, Bubsky was there. Bubsky, dude, there was like there was 4 very big names in that lineup.
They rotated a couple players. I'm pretty sure. Like I'm not 100% if Bubsky was there when everybody else was there. Like I think he was, but I think Stown was also maybe there. Like
Stown was there. Stown,
refrezh, Bubsky, Dragonfly, and Torben. Yes, dude, those are the 5.
It's kind of nasty.
I'm pretty sure they were all playing at the. Were they all playing at the same time?
I think that was my first EU event. I remember it was like this. The Star Ladder, Betsnet Masters or whatever, and they had a fucking deep run. I was like, what the? Ooh, these guys are good.
They actually came out. They were played pretty well.
Yeah.
Top 4 or some shit. Yeah.
Okay, let's just stick with the Flashpoint teams and talk about MIBR's lineup. Do you guys have any thoughts on the players that they have picked up? So they picked up.
Not really. To me, it's just like kind of like a ragtag group. Flashpoint. Yeah. And I do think they actually could do damage though, just because of that fact. Like, I doubt there's going to be like a ton of pressure on them, and also I do think they have some like pretty good individual players, especially in like VSM and KNG, and I'm sure TRK can always pop off. So they could definitely do some damage at Flashpoint. They're like a team that I don't expect to make like a deep run, but the way they're set up, I think could really upset a couple teams and ruin a couple runs.
I think VSM on this roster is a really interesting prospect for sure. I just question their in-game leader situation. If KNG is still IGLing, I just don't know whether he has enough experience to go up against a lot of these teams that they're going to be against.
Yeah.
And that lack of experience, I think, will just come back to bite them because they have good riflers and they have good players, but I just don't know. I just don't think their overall in-game leader experience will be enough to overcome like most of the teams in this tournament.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. Is that I doubt they're gonna be like trying to like. I doubt Kenny just gonna be like trying to be like a really good, sophisticated IGL. Like more than likely, it's probably gonna be more simple calling, more loose calling, and that type of style can really fuck up some teams.
Yeah, looking at most of the teams playing, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if they had a decent run. You know, not going to be like a top 5, even a top 6 if you ask me. I'm surprised about Kogu. Like, what's been up to? Like, I know he was playing for a bit, but it's been a long time since I've seen his name like in like high tier Counter-Strike. So him coming in as a coach, I don't know. I have to agree. It feels like a ragtag. Like, hey, we need to get 5 players on. We need a coach as well. Let's just get these guys on. You got Kogu, great social media presence right there. A lot of Brazilians going to be supporting this team, mainly because of him as well. But I don't know.
See, like they're a team that like for like even say us like could be like a problem. Say like we play them like an opening match or something. You know, like you know we open up against a team that we've never played before. That's just gonna play super loose in our face and stuff. Like it's a team that could definitely fuck up and trip up a few teams in Flashpoint.
Yeah,
they're not like a threat to win it.
I feel like this is just MIBR's attempt to sort of bring their brand name back to a good standing because like after that trio of players sort of just left the team or 2 of them got kicked and fallen left, like the MIBR name was really not in a good light. So picking up a player like VSM who's constantly been stuck on a team like Daytona and also just being able to sort of bring his brand level as well as like Lucas's brand to the team to try and revive it a little bit. I think that's what they're aiming for. They're not aiming to keep a majority of these players on. I think Leo Drunky and VSM are only on I think they're on a loan for 2 tournaments or something like that. So I think it's just an attempt to sort of bring that brand back up and then find permanent replacements for them anyway.
I don't believe in core as well. Yeah.
You don't believe in the Leo Drunk? The Leo DRK?
No, Leo Dirk.
The Leo
DRK. Yeah, it's Leo Dirk now.
The DRK TRK bros.
What a sellout.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of agree though with everything that's been said here. I don't think I even need to say anything more. But something we can talk about more is another roster move, which has been finalized today, actually. We are probably the first podcast to talk about this, guys. So this is FaZe parting ways with Yanko. No, this is actually NiKo signing for G2. Actually, so G2 confirmed the NiKo signing, and I mean, there's a million things we can talk about with this. Okay, first thing is OMEGALUL. OMEGALUL was removed, right? He was.
I check actually.
Wait, so it's like a 6-man thing, is what they're saying. They said initially. There's no one getting removed. So he was going to get removed, but then they're just keeping it, like they're keeping him. So they're going to do a 6-man thing.
Who would you remove in that team for NiKo? Like,
it'll depend. There's they're gonna have to go. I'm sure they have like a few different ideas in terms of how they're gonna switch things around and like their ideas for how they want to like implement NiKo into the team, because NiKo's also a very versed player himself, and so is like Nexa. So I'm curious to see what they'll do and like how they'll try to implement him. I think it should work out pretty well, especially their T sides. I think their T sides will be fine because I think OMEGALUL generally was pack. I think Hunter and Jax are usually the lurkers, or either way, at least they'll be able to do that. So I think their T sides will be fine. Their CT sides might take a bit more to figuring out the spots, because I think NiKo and Nexa overlap a lot. So just figuring out like who's going to slide more into OMEGALUL spots. I also have a lot of faith in Malik, their coach, to like figure these things out, especially and work with a 6-man roster really well. I think he's like one of the best coaches in the scene, so I have a lot of faith in him to figure it out. And
I wouldn't even mind a shakeup though. Like, I'm sorry, just to add on to what he said right there, like, you know, fitting into OMEGALUL's spot wide, right? Like, I mean, if you're getting someone like fucking NiKo coming in, I wouldn't mind a full-on shakeup, and I feel like Malik would be the sort of guy who could do that, right? Just shake everything up, mix things up, and see how it clicks. You got the right ingredients right now.
Yeah, I think a shakeup would sort of be necessary because like OMEGALUL runs in a lot on T side. He runs in first. Like the number of times I've seen OMEGALUL just run in with a Mac 10 into bomb sites and just multi-frag people is a bit nuts. And that's not a role that NiKo's gonna fill. Like NiKo's gonna be.
I feel like anything Nexa is gonna do more of that, because I feel like Nexa, like especially when you're already the IGL and you're getting a player like NiKo in, like there's a part of you that's gonna be like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like I'm just gonna run in from Mac 10 and just like I have NiKo backing me up, like kill everyone and we'll win.
I was kind of hoping that's what was going to happen to FaZe once they got cold, that NiKo would be able to run in a little bit more and make space for cold. But here we are with NiKo on a new team in just a few months later. So that's that.
Because I actually did want to say about FaZe, is that I actually think this would be like a beneficial move for both teams. I think this is a really, really perfect opportunity for FaZe to kind of hit like an identity reset, which I think they really, really need. Because I don't think players like, you know, Rain, Cole, like all these players, they're not like bad players and like, you know, shit players that can't be stars on teams.
Rain.
So like they definitely can get in like a new IGL or like, you know, whatever they plan to do, a new coach, you know, just a new identity just in general, and they can instantly be even better than they were with NiKo. And just like NiKo could be even better on G2.
Did it mention what the buyout was?
I think G2 guy like trolled. He just put some fake numbers and like eggplant emojis on everything. Like he basically parodied the Henry G tweets. Yeah.
Sort of what I expected out of Carlos, though. It's like the exact sort of
Carlos,
tweet he would have.
Yeah.
I love the fucking video they made of kidnapping him. That's like so much better than when Cold Zero got announced by FaZe. Cold Zero, baby, yeah, dude.
You mean the same announcement where he was like in the background of a window for like a month before they actually announced him, and a photo of NiKo, and he's just sitting there.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, that got leaked so early. It's just
no. It was when they were traveling to an event like New York, and and Cold like took a picture of like NiKo and someone else, and they made it obvious that like Cold was the one taking the picture.
Oh yeah.
I remember.
I forgot what was shown, but yeah.
Dude, I actually remember walking into the ESL New York hotel like before that even got announced, and I walk in, I and I just see a FaZe jersey with cold zero on the back, like at the reception table, and I was like, oh, that's definitely a thing. Which, you know, I'm walking into a hotel lobby and seeing a FaZe cold zero jersey, by the way, at that time was very surprising to see.
Yeah, that's a little early too. Yeah. Bring it back to G2. One thing that Maniac told me at the event is that something with G2. So like they fell off this year kind of hard. Like they were really good at the beginning of the year, and you could really tell that the way they played was like they were coming up with new execs. They were like anti-stratting every opponent. They were putting in like blame F hours, and then they fell off really hard. And what Maniac said was that basically G2 realized this wasn't sustainable, that we can't put that many hours into every match. We can't actually prep that hard every single time and expect to have any life force left in us. So I think what's nice about this is that when you have NiKo on your team, like I say this and we've seen FaZe be awful, but it kind of does raise their floor in a way. It kind of just like you can put in less effort day to day, and you have just so much better, such a better overall like level of firepower that you're always going to have, or clutching ability, and like especially with NiKo not calling, hopefully he's not calling. Then you're gonna, yeah. Then like I feel like the way G2 plays is good enough right now that you're basically like this should be a team that makes the quarterfinals of every tournament. Like surely, like, and I'm trying to be like realistic about this and not be like, if they're all in form, like they're gonna win or anything like that. It's like no, they should just probably make quarters. Like I don't actually see them
unless they have to go up against ATK again, then they might be a little shook.
Yeah, they might fall apart on land to flop the flop
on
god.
land. The flop winner.
Yeah. Yeah. I like I'll just throw this question out there. So this should improve G2. Like, will this improve FaZe though? We kind of touched on it already, but do you think you said I think Mix, you said that this is a good reset for them, that they can now get an identity reset. Do you think they will get better? Like
once they actually, like, I'm not saying anything with like the Olaf lineup, like, you know, Olaf standing in. Ignoring this lineup, I do think, obviously waiting on to see who they actually get for a coach and for a fifth. I do think this has a lot of potential to actually make them better. Like even if like they got like an Azure like as like a fifth, like just the total identity reset, total identity reset that it hits on the team, I think like is going to benefit them.
Bleh, what do you think?
I thought when neighbors doc shut up now, it was just popping off right there in the background. I agree. I think the Azure thing really is very enticing, right? You need an in-game leader for a long time. The Olaf thing, I feel, is going to be temporary. I don't want to really harp much on that, but I think it's a good idea. Not just Azure necessarily, but I've always felt like with FaZe, it's just this, it lacks a leader. And I don't mean as a coach or as an in-game leader, but someone to kind of rally behind, if that makes sense, right? Like, or even as an org, like if you look at, for example, Complexity, you have someone like Jason Lake, where it's like, I'm building a team. Like, this is my baby, this is my pet project, right? You have him being on top over there. You look at Cloud9, you have, Henry G coming on in, and you always have this one person who can be kind of like the center, the pillar for a new team to be built up on. And then you look at FaZe and you look at the personalities over there and you look at the egos that naturally come with that. I'm saying ego not in a negative way, but just generally having an ego, so to speak, which is completely normal. And when you're a player like a Rain, like a fucking Cold Zera, you 100% deserve to have an ego. But I feel like there's no one taking the mantle, so to speak, like holding the scepter, saying, okay, all right, we're going to build this around this system, this structure altogether. So with Azure coming in, I like the idea, but will they rally around him, right? I feel like he needs someone like a Kassar to hold his hand together, and both of them can try and kind of like build that system around them. So I like the idea of a rebuild. I just don't know who's going to be it. And it doesn't have to be just an in-game leader. It could be also someone like a coach, a manager coming in, someone who they're going to listen to and be like, all right, let's make this happen. But I feel like it is so hard to find someone like that. And this is a question which goes back a couple of years when we had even NiKo in that team. We had all those star plays with Olaf and everyone. And we're like, who are they going to really listen to? Yanko came in, You know, he had his ups and downs. Now he's left. Who's going to be that guy? I feel like someone like Kassad and Azur coming together, I think that could work. But is that even going to happen, though? Is Kassad going to come back to that from Cloud9? Of course not, right? So the person, like, we need that one person. We need like a Henry G, a Jason Lake, or for that matter, even a Kassad coming in.
That's something that that FaZe roster has always lacked, right? Like having somebody actually dedicated to sort of building that and keeping that roster as an entity. Because FaZe as an organization just don't seem interested in their CSGO team as much. Like they don't seem.
It's a brand value.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be surprised how many teams still operate with like just kind of like a group decision type thing of like how they make changes.
Lots of them, dude. It's fucking crazy.
And it's terrible. Like it's never gonna be better long term than just having like one set voice. So, but you know, if you get someone to come in and like someone's gonna come in to control FaZe, IGL coach, whoever, and you look at the lineup that they're being given, and it's like Rain, Kierby, Brokey, and coldzera, like that's a banger lineup still. Like that's still a lot of skill in one team. So there's a lot to work with still there, and I think they could easily come back.
But that's always a problem, right? Like if given an opportunity, like for having 5 comparative nobodies who would listen to me, I'd rather work with that than would work with like 4 superstars who might not be looking to buy into my vision. And I feel like, again, I'm assuming a lot here. You know, I'm assuming a lot. I don't know these players personally that very well, but I think it's a healthy assumption to make based on what we have to work with here. So the right person, I think that is what FaZe should be looking for. But then being FaZe, I don't even know if they're looking at it. So there it is.
A combo I could see potentially doing work for them would be something like an Azur Sponge combo, where as coach and their player, because they have history together, they would be able to bring some structure to the team. They would be able to sort of assert themselves as they already have experience together, and that would work well. I don't know if Sponge is thinking of going into a coaching role or not, but that could be a potential combo that would work for them.
Maybe. I mean, you look at Moses, like Jason joining his team, right? Joining Liquid, and then many people like, you know, what the hell? That doesn't make sense. He hasn't really been playing professional CS in a very, very long time, and all of that. What I feel for me, Jason coming in is more about, it's Jason Moses O'Toole. You will respect him. You know who the fuck he is. He's a guy who, you know, he's got that fuck you attitude in the best way possible. Is fucking Jason, right? And I feel like that is something where Liquid probably needed. And that's something you can't get from just going through demos, just, you know, having kind of like a hive mind discussion all the time. And I feel like there's someone you need. Unfortunately, it's fucking hard to find someone like that. But yeah, I have to agree. Like someone like Sponge, someone like Azur going with him, someone like a Kassad. You know what I mean, right? Someone really hard nosed. You can't have someone who's going to be like, I wouldn't expect a more democratic coach going in and be like, hey, all right, guys, what do you guys think about this idea? No, that's not going to work out. You need a guy coming in, laying down the law, saying, listen, we're going to fucking do it this way. We're going to win shit.
So Bleh, let's bring it back to FaZe briefly then. Do you think NiKo did that?
I think it was tough for him to fully do that with NiKo there as well.
Yeah, I feel like there was too much of a personal relationship there to really be that effective.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like...
Don't think he was given enough control by the org at all. Like, look at how Zonic is given so much control over Astralis and the way they swap out their players. I don't think NiKo had that sort of ability.
And it's also like a social dynamic thing. Like you'll always notice when you have like, think of a classroom, right? And you have a teacher coming in, and then you have like 5 or 6 kids over there, and the teacher, he's got to maintain control over there. But if he has a student who's known from a while ago, it does not help when he's trying to, you know, kind of like lead the classroom altogether. I was going to be like, all right, he's kind of his favorite. I'm not saying he was a favorite, but when you have personal dynamics with a certain player, especially someone like a NiKo, you know, such a big personality out there, I feel like it would have, from the initial get-go, kind of influenced things and his decision-making ability. I still feel Bianco would have really worked well with maybe a different team, maybe an NA team for that matter.
Do you guys want to guess how many S-tier events NiKo has won as a coach?
2?
0. Does Pascal? I don't remember.
It's 0. It's actually 0. I was a little surprised too. Yeah.
Blast doesn't count, I guess. Yeah.
No, he won some Blast Pro Copenhagen regular season top 3 thing. Okay, like if you count coming in the top of a group that multiple people also won, I guess he won that. But yeah, that kind of surprised me. I'm not trying to get into that one. Actually, I like.
There's a lot there. There's a lot more there besides Yenko.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. I feel like it's like it's almost like less fair. Like I almost feel like can we like identify independent and dependent variables when making roster changes? Because I would really love to just see NiKo leave and Yenko stay, so Yenko can now do a little bit more, like we've been mentioning, with a different IGL, like work together now at some point, like because then it would.
That's also his call at the end of the day. So
yeah, it is.
But would that work when you have established a dynamic with 3 of the other core players over the past 1.5 to 2 years, right? Would that shift really? Maybe they need something new as well.
It may not, but it would help. I could say that it would probably help the IGL coming in some way, that the coach can say like, hey, if you want to run this kind of like setup or strategy or style, these kind of like, this is what they're really best at. Even though the IGL should probably know that because everybody watches FaZe. So, but it kind of is one of those things where I feel like it would just ease the growing pains a little bit, as opposed to some like big FaZe swap where they get, let's say like you said, Azure Sponge or something like that. Like that would be so drastic.
I mean, that's what's going to be happening now anyway, right? Like they've lost everything. They've lost the IGL. They've lost the coach. They've lost NiKo.
Yeah, they kind of just have to have a huge identity shift.
All
okay.
and buts.
Okay. All right. Let's another player out, another player potentially in here. So Ariel is out of ENCE temporarily, it seems like, for medical reasons is what it was said. But it's been reported by DK that this is perhaps zehN. I've heard both pronounced.
zehN.
Yeah, I've heard both, but I hear zehN more often. I feel like it's zehN, but
I think it's zehN.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say zehN. All right, so zehN Nix. No, so zehN is targeted to be replaced though, or the replacement. And I want to tackle this from 2 different angles. One, what did we think? Like, was Ariel? Like, is Ariel a solid piece for the ENCE that they're gonna miss? For one, let's start there.
If they replace him with zehN, then probably not so much.
Okay.
And just
pretty blunt,
and just overall, I mean, just overall, he hasn't been like bad, but I mean, he never really stood out to me besides the, like one blast event that they won. So,
when we
I want to say this also. I want to say this also about that blast event. That was when Ariel had 110 hours in the past 2 weeks. Like, that dude grinded his ass off to own at one blast event, and he literally is just like unheard. Like, he's always been okay, but like in my eyes as like a pro, he's been pretty like mediocre in all honesty. Like, he's been like that event he owned. Like, he looked great. Like, he was hitting every shot. Looked like his decision making and like the conviction he took every fight with was like there. But then after that, it's like he really
he was always just kind of okay. Like,
yeah, he's just all right. You know, he's just okay. He was kind of just another piece in ENCE for me. And then there's like Alexi B, and there's Alu, and then obviously Sergey. Then you just kind of have Ariel, and you just kind of had X7.
Pretty much. There's kind of there at times. I felt like.
I mean, put it this way: he's not an irreplaceable piece in this roster by any means. Like, there's no way he's a player that you think that we'll never be able to find someone who can fit into his slots or take his place on this roster. It's just not one of the pieces that they need.
But that said, he was a lot better before the Alexi. So maybe taking the break, mental health break, will help him out, or whatever the break was for. I don't know exactly, but
I think it said like health.
Yeah, so something like that.
It said indefinitely though. Like,
yeah, it was an indefinite health leave.
You know who is 27 is Ariel, not RPK. That's kind of surprising.
I'm sure a lot of 27-year-old
bring it back.
I feel like when we had the entire Sunny joining ENCE discussion right before the entire Alexi B break happened, the discussion was. Sorry, sorry. I meant like when Sunny was about to join.
Oh no, I was saying to myself, I forgot that he's on ENCE.
Yeah. You forgot that.
It's easy to forget. It's honestly really easy to forget what they're doing over there on ENCE sometimes.
Stargaze been sucking as well, but yeah, like the discussion was always. It's true though. He's been kind of crap recently. The team as a whole has been looking rough. I like Natu though. I feel bad for Natu. Ariel and X7. Like these are the two guys we kept. Like those are the two names coming up, right? Who is Sunny going to replace in that lineup? It was always X7. It was always Ariel. So is zehN coming in going to make much of a difference? I don't think so. I think ENCE are in an even worse identity crisis right now. They need to figure out what the hell they want to do. They have a few events remaining here this year to like do that, but they are lost. And I don't think it's just about...
At the moment, they seem like lost and just trying to keep chugging along and keep trying
just
to make
shit
it work.
At the wall, seeing what sticks, and nothing's sticking, honestly.
Yeah.
They're like a Finnish MIBR in that they are just... They have to just get more Finnish players. Like, I mean... It's like whatever works. Like, just they're trying so desperately to just swap in and swap out pieces, and like, dude, this like Yampy thing also. Like, Yampy has not been that good for them either.
At this point, it might be more productive to just try to build like a time travel machine.
Yeah, they lost everything. Just losing out on Alexi there. I just feel honestly, I feel worse about this whole situation for Godsent than I do ENCE. Like, if they lose, then like, dude, Godsent's pretty good right now. I like, they're never favorites to win an event or make a deep run or anything like that, but they're solidly like a top 8 European team or something like that. Like, that's good enough to be really competitive in the landscape and just continue to, you know, just like keep chugging along. Okay, let me see what their actual ranking is. Okay, they're 13th in EU right now, so that's a little worse than I thought, but at the same time, that's higher than ENCE. That's better than ENCE.
Yeah. On the bright side, obviously, you know, zehN might just want to play with the ENCE guys, but on the bright side for Godsent, at least, is that, you know, being an international team, if they do lose him, they obviously have a lot more options than like an ENCE would losing a player like that. So it wouldn't be like the end of the world.
Better at it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like the end of the world for them. Obviously, it's still kind of a pain in the ass because ENCE's a good player, and I assume they want to keep him. But you know, if he wants to go to ENCE, then that's what he wants to do.
Oh, well, zehN's way older than I thought he was, actually. He's 28. Holy.
Everybody is so old for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I noticed that the other day as well.
Imagine like Godsent getting someone like Olaf as a replacement. That wouldn't be a bad shout, honestly. If Olaf can sort of return to some of his older form. I don't know. I want to see Olaf back on a Swedish team and see how that works out. But I just don't see what Swedish team would have an opening for him right now.
Freddy Frog's team. Yeah, there's really nothing to, honestly, there's really no space available right now. I mean, like NIP would take a huge gamble to swap out to put Olaf there, because they are 10th, like they're 10th in the world right now, and there's no real right answer for who you should even take out from that team. Like for me, I'd probably take out Twist personally, but like I based off of roles and what I've seen for ability for these players. But I like, even that doesn't even feel like it would be a great swap. So I'm not.
Olaf is kind of like the lurk, the hard lurk.
He kind of was that for FaZe.
Yeah. I was thinking if this could work with this. I mean, he hasn't played how long? Like 7 months, 8 months?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think NIP or really any, or I mean, like the only two solid Swedish teams are Fnatic and NIP. So both of those teams are in such a good state right now that you wouldn't want to just swap out for the hell of it by any means. So
I feel bad for Godsent, dude. I feel like they're really solid team, like you said, Maui, but they just need that one star player, right? And like looking at the org, like Godsent, you're not exactly a FaZe, or for that matter, like even a NIP, and you can't really. I don't think they have the money power to like pick up a potential star player who other people would be wanting. But I feel like that's what they need right now. As a unit, they look really solid, and yeah, losing zehN would be a hard knock for them. Unless they gamble and go for some unknown 16-year-old, 15-year-old Swedish prodigy we don't know about, maybe.
Can I bring it back? So I just got the perfect IGL for FaZe. Ben Leet. Whalers.
No.
Juggernaut.
Dude, no. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry, Benjamin Leet, but no, that would not be it. That just the skill disparity is just way too massive. It's just it'd be too hard for them to listen to that.
Match Ben. Yeah, it'd be too hard for them to match Ben skill. That's true.
I don't think there's really any.
Cold Zero,
Okay.
former 2-time best player in the world.
Let's just
Under Ben
okay.
Lee, of course.
Let's actually like do this thought experiment then briefly. Okay, who could we see coming in as the IGL for FaZe? I feel like the number one and most obvious choice is definitely Azure. So like, is there anyone that could even rival that option?
I'm just trying to think what IGLs are like available that would possibly go.
They could buy Glaive because it's not calling anymore, but I don't know.
Yeah, that'll go.
But think about it. Just think about it for a moment. If Glaive's like, I'm tired of winning everything with Astralis. Magist is calling pretty well right now. I just want to explore other options and get paid $3.1 million because one of his teammates did very recently. I'm just saying, hey, if there's one man that those guys are going to listen to, it'd be motherfucking Glaive. I'm just saying.
I mean, I doubt it happens, but like Fallen is also available.
Oh,
I don't
Fallen's
see Cold
right.
Zero and Fallen playing again together.
Oh yeah,
right now.
that's true. Never mind. Fuck that. Never mind. Imagine though. That'd be crazy.
Actually,
would be an
Fallen-
interesting
He did tweet
case.
about it, right?
he said, "Come back to me" or something like that. I think it was some
Dude,
some
it's gonna get
Denver-
announced. It's like they're announced Fallen, and then they're gonna announce Dad as the new coach,
No.
and the takeover
Oh,
begins.
no.
And then it's gonna be Taco for Kirby.
Taco for Kirby.
Oh god.
Oh man, I could see Fur really playing well instead of Rain in that team.
Oh,
Oh my god.
it's happening.
Everyone just slowly gets integrated. Oh, that would be such a bad luck. Okay, let's move on to some more realistic predictions then. So Blast is still running right now. The first group has finished, or it's not finished actually. It's OG versus Navi. Actually, is it over? It's
Live.
not over.
No, it's
No, it's
still going
literally live right now. Okay, let's
Yeah.
let's
OG
not
is
talk
currently up 13-7. So
Okay.
my prediction for this match would be OG.
Okay, so cool. Let's think about the other groups then. So Group B is Vitality, Complexity first round. On the other side, Big, FaZe. So two teams make it to the fall 2020 finals, aka make it to the grand finals of this group. So between Vitality, Complexity, Big, and FaZe, who do we think are the two teams that are going to make it here?
This is going to be Complexity's debut with JKS, which is going to be really interesting.
Yes, yes.
My initial instinct obviously is Vitality and Big, which I'm sure most people would say. Obviously I wouldn't rule out Complexity. I mean, they have a new player, but there's so much skill in that lineup, even if it is new, that they definitely can win an online match against either of these teams.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Vitality, Complexity. I know Big would be the obvious pick, but I feel like Complexity have that. Like the structure's still very solid.
You get that gut feeling.
Yeah, it's Bleh
Yeah.
F, man. Guys watching all the demos right now, probably.
Yeah, I would say Vitality for sure. It's between Complexity and Big for me. I feel like Complexity have a good chance. My only concern with them is that with JKS coming in, I'm sure that Blame F and JKS would have had to shift around some roles there, just based on them overlapping on T side a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how fast they've been able to sort of adapt to that. I think with Blame F and the way he's so committed, it won't be an issue really. And JKS has so much experience that I think he will just plug in. So I think Vitality and Complexity is going to be my little bold prediction for that group.
Well, I'm gonna go Vitality Big then. You guys both said Complexity, and I'm gonna be a little.
Yeah, I think that's a more reasonable pick. To
Yeah.
be honest.
I'm just gonna say FaZe Big for the hell. No, just of course not. No, there's
Fuck
no
you,
way.
anyway.
No,
Please stay FaZe. Please do it. Do it.
No, I'm gonna say Complexity, Vitality. Actually, I'll say that because I just feel like it was announced 20 days ago that the rumor for JKS to Complexity was happening, so they've had plenty of time to practice. Like
That's 20 days ago.
Yeah, 20 days
What?
ago, or
Feels like a week ago, dude.
It was okay.
It was a while ago.
It was 19 days ago, actually. I just checked. 19 days ago.
Jesus.
So
Time flies. Jeez.
yeah,
Jason Lake also put out like a contract sign tweet like a day or two after that report was out. So
yeah. So I would even assume that they were scrimming before that. Honestly, like I think there's a potential that they were scrimming 20 plus days ago. So I think JKS is probably integrated.
Well,
in some
probably not
fashion.
because JKS is still in NA, but
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, actually, okay. So even if it's like that day that report came out that they started streaming, or even if a little later, like 2 weeks, I think that's enough time.
They'll be fine.
I think that's I really think with the quality of that roster, I think that is definitely enough time. And with how serviceable Complexity looked with NATO Sapphics in, like, dude, put JKS in for NATO Sapphics for a minute, and like you just got just so much better. Like, so I think it's for me actually a pretty easy Vitality Complexity grand final pick.
I'm feeling tabseN, so I'm gonna keep with big.
I mean, I wouldn't count them out, but tabseN was pretty bad recently, actually.
Which means he should be better now, right? I mean, logical.
It can only get up. He can only go up from there. Yeah, that is true. That's facts. All right, so let's go to Group C. Astralis, MIBR, they're facing off in the opener, and then Furia G2 in the other opener of Group C. So, who are you guys? Let's go in reverse order. So I'll actually go first then because I did last. So I'll say Astralis is going to make it. And wait, is NiKo playing?
I was about to ask the same question.
Is NiKo?
I would assume so.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Well, the lineup shows Ammonic and Jax.
Yeah, I think that's because HooXI hasn't updated G2's lineup because they haven't actually confirmed who he's replacing.
It's going to be replaced.
They won't replace it until that happens.
Screw it. I'm going to say Astralis G2, no matter what. Like, I'm going to say Astralis G2 because I just think Furia has a little bit more time than EG to warm up into the EU landscape. So I think that's working for them in this circumstance, whereas EG were kind of like just thrown into the just pits of EU immediately, just like, here, good luck in a match. Like, even though you've been playing New England Whaler and scrims for the past 3 weeks. So, like, Furia might not be ready in that sense of things. Astralis definitely are just gonna beat MIBR, so I have no doubt about that. But I just think Furia might face the same difficulties that EG did. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Astralis G2.
I'm gonna take Astralis Furia for sure. I just think that if NiKo's coming in for G2, then they're still going to be dealing with like that little adaptation period with NiKo plugging in, and with the way Furia are just relentless with their aggression. Like if G2 don't have structure behind that, then the comms could get really hectic, and they might struggle to adapt very fast against that sort of style. And so I just see Furia straight up beating G2, especially if NiKo's just straight plugging into that roster and it's one of his first matches here.
Yeah, I'm going Astralis Furia. I don't think G2 will be adjusted enough yet. And I just think Furia is going to be a good match again. I really am excited to see Furia play Astralis and G2 and all these other European teams. I think they'll do really well.
I'm going to have to give it Astralis Furia as well. I feel like unlike EG, Furia just have that style where they just don't give a shit. Like, I think it's going to work their way. It's not that they don't give a shit. I think it's actually going to go their way rather than EG. Well, EG haven't practiced much against the EU team, so they struggle a little bit initially. For Furia, it's more about I worry for some of the EU teams that they haven't practiced with Furia.
They aren't ready. They aren't ready.
Yeah, I don't think they're ready for that. I've watched a lot of Counter-Strike in my time. What they're doing is just fucking insane.
Listen, so, you can watch it, but nothing prepares you for it. Unlike
being in the server, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Furia Astralis is a safe bet here.
Yeah. Actually, after I said that point about EG not having enough time, I look at how long it's going to be until Furia G2 happens, and it's pretty much 5 days, 4.5 days. And I feel like actually that is probably enough time actually to adjust. So like Furia is going to be scrimming, I'm saying, throughout all this time, whereas EG only had 5 days. They're jet lagged. They're not going to play up to their normal form. I think Furia I think that's actually enough time now. So I would like to rescind my G2 pick because that just feels...
faith in NiKo. Okay.
I just feel like it's enough time. I feel like it's enough time for Furia to adjust.
I wouldn't rescind my pick. What is
okay,
this?
well, I like said the point and I let it stir in my head a little bit before I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I feel like I just made the logic for why Furia should be good enough, even though I didn't pick them. Yeah.
Well, so fuck you. Fuck you. I'm picking Astralis G2.
Well, fuck you. I'm picking MIBR Furia.
Jeez. Okay.
I think my only concern for this match would be that Gary isn't behind Furia. So if this match gets into like some close 14-14, 14-13 scenarios, then G2 might be able to just take it over the line. Because I find like Gary does a really good job of anchoring this team early on and keeping them in line, and in general just helping them stay stable throughout a match. And so without him behind them, that they might let a couple of those leads slip. But otherwise, I think Fury go with it for sure.
Okay. We are going to, instead of doing the question of the week, we have the first Patreon question. Probably bring the question of the week back after this, but just want to highlight, because I forgot again at the beginning of the pod to talk about the Patreon. This is from Patreon, so if you guys donate enough money, look at the tiers on there. I think this is the $10 one. You can submit a question. So this is Bill W's question. He's been a longtime Mauisnake fan, actually. And your guys, so he's asking, it's a very roundabout question, but I'll read the whole thing as is before I center it. Your guys' thoughts on baiting, ? Most casuals and even some pros consider baiting to be bad, but some pros argue it's a skill, and FNS on Peaker's Advantage 2017, what a throwback, argued the reason why he preferred to build a team around coldzera instead of simple and NiKo was because he baited. I don't know, maybe question is out of date, but thought it'd be a fun one to ask. Okay. I'm sorry, Bill, for reading it verbatim.
Why do you read the whole thing? Jesus Christ.
just because it's fun like that. So basically, what do we think? What do we think about baiting, and what do we think about the idea of maybe centering a team around a baiter?
Yeah. So it's all based around like context, in my opinion, like different types of baiting, like there's like good and bad. It's like it's not all the same, just baiting. But so I would say the reason FNS would say he would prefer to build a team around cold rather than simple and NiKo is he can probably control cold in his own system a lot more than he can a simple or NiKo. So he's able, because cold is like kind of a baiter, so he's just kind of playing around this team anyways. So he's just going to be cold is just be kind of playing around FNS's, like, assuming hypothetically FNS is building a team. Cold is going to be able to play more around FNS's system than, a simple or NiKo. You kind of have to like let off their chains a bit more. They're going to be more aggressive players. They're going to be wanting to take duels at the start of rounds, and they're going to have things, like especially at the start of rounds that they're going to want to do, and like certain plays that they're going to want to make, and that you're going to have to be able to include those into your own system and be able to work around those. Whereas with someone like Cold, he's more so just kind of going wherever. And obviously this is in 2017, by the way, where coldzera is like the best player in the world, dropping, like a 1.25 rating every event. So
yeah, considering
that context, it's a lot more set to build around. Like you have this player, you know where you're gonna be able to put him, like how he's gonna play. And so just from an IGL's perspective, I can definitely see why they would prefer to have someone like that. It's kind of the similar thing, like someone would rather have device instead of simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think baiting is inherently a bad thing. It just comes down to how it's actually executed. Like if you're coldzera, he does a very good job of consistently baiting the right way, and there is a right and a wrong way to bait, and coldzera does a very good job of doing it the right way.
Because like someone has to bait.
Exactly.
Like not everyone can just hold W and entry. Like someone has to bait everyone else.
Like look at the way Zipnix even does it. Like Zipnix, like if you look at the way he plays, he baits in some situations, but he's also he's the clutch minister. Like he's the guy who's going to come in and mop up the 2 or 3 players who are left, and he's going to have the positioning on them, he's going to have the intel on them, and he's going to be able to clear those sort of situations up. And being able to execute on that is entirely based on like your positioning and the way you're calming with your teammates as well. Because like if you're baiting the right way, you can catch the players out after your teammate dies, or you can immediately trade them, and you're either going to have a positioning advantage on them or you're going to have a trade advantage on them. And that's the sort of 2 things that you're really looking for when you're baiting correctly. And for coldzera, that's something he did very well. Personally, I don't know if I agree with building a team around a player like coldzera instead of simple and NiKo. I guess 2017 is entirely different since coldzera wasn't at a different level of form. But I feel like building around players who are consistently good at baiting is also like it's entirely reliant on the way your IGL wants to lead the team. Like if you have a player who can consistently bait and do a good job of closing out rounds, then they're a good player to build around. Like I would build a team around Zipnix, but having the right players that are able to step up alongside them is also very crucial.
Yeah, there's not much to add to that. I think you guys hit the nail on the head with that one. But yeah, I have to agree. Like building a team around like a player whose entire playstyle revolves around a teammate baiting for him, I don't think that's viable overall, right?
I think it's not so much like building a team around that specific player, but from like FNS's POV, it's that he was considering like building a team around. Building a team around his system rather than building the team around a specific player like a Simple or NiKo.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that FNS calls like SKLG did a lot. Like they played the same style a lot of the time. Like it was like get map control, put one guy in an uncomfortable position for the opponents that they either have to clear out or can be used to like as a hard lurk or as a person on a split later. Like FNS called the exact same way that they did, or at least like with his orgless team, it basically looked like I was watching 2018 SK or 2017 2018 SK LG again, but with just completely different players, obviously.
I feel like the more interesting part for me personally with this question is about more than like the very specific case of FNS and Cold would be casuals, or I don't know about pros. I don't really know many of the newer pros. I don't play seriously anymore, but at least from the casual perspective, like, I still believe there's a big stigma attached to baiting, right? Even to this day, where everyone's like, oh, he's just a filthy baiter and whatnot. And I feel it's a very cultural thing. I remember this one video which Duncan made where he was talking about like this. I forgot the Swedish word. It's about doing it for the greater good, right? And it's a cultural concept where you're willing to sacrifice something just for the greater good overall. And I feel like that is something very regionalistic and something which is very prevalent in EU. I think you see it a lot with the Scandinavian style of Counter-Strike overall. Something very absent in Asia as a whole, where everyone's more about the individual style of thing, which is something I've noticed. And even NACS, like if you go back quite a few years, it was something which I noticed quite a bit. The personalities clashing because they're like, hey man, you're baiting too much, whatnot. Instead of not realizing that, if you win the game, that's what fucking matters. You win the fucking round. Doesn't matter who's getting the kills, as long as the kills do take place. Has that changed overall for you guys? Like when it comes to like lower tiers of like NACS, like mid tier 2 sort of scene?
For me in NA, I think it's gotten better, definitely, like the past couple of years. Obviously, like the scene's now drastically changed within the last 4 months, and a lot of people are just gone. But yeah, like even on teams like Chaos or Rogue in the past, like I felt like there wasn't so much selfishness. Just like United, there definitely was like that kind of thing. Maybe not so much of like being willing to entry. Like I don't think that's ever too much of a problem in a team once you get to a high enough level.
Mm-hmm.
People are gonna do it, but there definitely was a bit more of not willing to sacrifice for the greater good. Some people definitely not as willing to always go in, even if like self-consciously, like not doing it self-consciously, like not baiting on purpose, but just kind of like more naturally, passively, just kind of baiting their teammates when maybe they shouldn't be.
And do you feel like certain players, like, and this is just me hypothesizing over here, like, do you feel like certain players don't really get picked up, like promising players, because they fill that role at the lower tiers of Counter-Strike? Because I feel that's a case in some of the more like oceanic or Asian regions where you have some really good players, but they don't have those high fragging pop-off games at all because of the role they play, but doesn't really get the attention it deserves, or rather gets the credit it deserves. I feel like a lot of players disappear because of that.
I think it's possible, but like in my opinion, at least, that like if you're good enough for a pro team and like that's the role you're playing, and like if that's like your role, like you should be able to have like enough consistent impacts, especially like at an MDL level, doing that role to be good enough to be noticed by a pro team. I think like it's kind of like a cream rises to the top generally type of thing. Like there's definitely some it's like
someone's
I'm sure like
notice.
Yeah, like I'm sure there's been examples where like someone didn't get noticed because of it. But I doubt it was like a superstar or anything, Like I think generally the cream is gonna rise to the top, but definitely like some of those maybe more like average kind of tier players, like tier 2 players, maybe like they might have their only chance to kind of like get on to like a good team, like a tier 1 team, is to basically kind of rise up with a team that they're a solid piece built around.
Gotcha.
Like for me, Spongy comes to mind in North America as that sort of player who like individually, he was very much in that sort of role. Like he still got picked up. He still got picked up by teams because he could fill that role and do it very well. But he didn't like individually stand out as a superstar. So
yeah, I would say a couple people that are like that rose up, even though I don't feel like their roles were that good. Were like Penny got noticed. I think Swisher didn't always do like the star roles, but he still got noticed enough that Gaming.
Yeah, people are like, if you have good mechanics, like people are gonna notice that. Like,
yeah,
especially if you're playing on like FPL and stuff. Like,
yeah,
you should.
People recognize those people were good, even though they weren't having bad stats, but they weren't like destroying like records or anything like that, like getting kills out of nowhere or anything like I think Penny before he got picked up for Triumph had like a 1.1 something or like and then Swisher probably like around the same mark where it wasn't like holy crap these guys are just wrecking everybody, but it was like okay, we've seen consistency from them for like 6 to 12 months now at a level where it's like they're clearly better than their competition, and they don't even like I wouldn't say that Penny or Swisher were in really star roles. Like they were just doing what they did, and it was like how Mix was saying, just enough impact where consistently from their positions you knew that they were going to output, because Counter-Strike 5 people, everyone has a gun in the server, so you can do something from anywhere really. Okay, I wanted to ask one more question as a follow-up to the baiting one, because he kind of said like building a team today or whatever. I think like if you guys were to pick one player though in the scene, just like try to justify it in like one sentence, because we've already been going on for a while. Like, who would you pick to like, if you had to pick one person to build a roster around? This can be literally an IGL or a star player. I don't see why you would pick anything other than that. But like, let's go Bleh first. Who would be the one guy you pick, build a roster around this guy?
I mean, the easy answer is always to pick someone like Glaive, right? Like that just makes sense to me. Like I always want someone who, with experience he has building our own team. I feel like someone like Glaive, right? If I give him like almost a blank check and be like, hey, pick a team or pick players where from, who's not in Astralis, who's never been in Astralis. I feel like he could pick a team who would, without a Zyru, even without a Simple, I feel like he could get a team who would be a top 3 team, 100%, like without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, like I'd probably give a blank check to someone that's like maybe even almost did it before, like Kerrigan. Like if I was like a I kind of want like the sure thing, like I'm not like I'm like a business person. Like I think I'd give it to Kerrigan just because I feel like he's more than likely he's done it before. I'd have a lot of faith in him, especially giving him like if you give him a blank check like to build like a decent team that makes a lot of sense internationally. Whereas with Glaive, I think he would be able to. But it'd just be almost a bit more of a risk in a way that it's not something he's actually had to do before. He's not had to play like teams like those or like build a team like that. So,
but the question is, he's not building the team. Like he's the guy we're going to build a team around, right?
But I think the team around him, but like
you could around him, but like also like that person's gonna have a lot of input. I would say. I'll say
this with it. Like this has to be like we don't know the contracts of every player beyond what really Henry G and kind of what rumors are and things like that. But this has to be your highest paid player. Let's say that this has to be your highest paid guy. So you wouldn't have like, if you're saying you're picking Kerrigan, you're not picking. It's not like Kerrigan can build a team with Simple on it, because like Simple would probably get paid more. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. No.
Obviously, I can justify paying a fuck ton of money, so I can just all the other good players. All right,
Simple.
Okay, no. Just go with no. I want to hear notes. You can get.
What I'll do is I'll get Simple, and then I'll get Kerrigan.
Okay. Okay. No. Just.
Obviously, you bring back Zeus, and pay him 40K a month. I say, yeah, Glaive is a really good piece. I would say if you're looking for like the player who you can build a team around and who's gonna build the team, Bleh is a very good shout. The guy has like an immense dedication to the game. He's talented as an individual player, and he just generally is very good at getting his players into the right mindset. If not someone like Bleh, I think if we're gonna go relate this to like our baiting question as well, Art, because he can lead the team, and if you have the right pieces around them, he's going to be the one creating that space for you. He's creating the strategies that are sort of based around you getting that getting those openings and also just sort of just steamrolling off of that. So
I can see that.
Those are all great answers. I would have probably gone with Kerrigan already. So I think we already got the points up for them.
Yeah, Kerrigan for newer players and Gley for like already established ones. I'd go with it that way.
I think the thing, so Bleh's kind of using the DAP Stanislaw, but for Kerrigan Glaive. I see.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Just set the, just set it all the plans.
Wait,
lay down the blueprint.
The answer was so obvious for me. It was MSL.
It was Zero. Oh, okay, sure.
No, it's Mantu.
Then I have my Opper and my IGL.
It was Mantu.
It was Mantu all along.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's a reference to when I picked Mantu over Zywoo.
Yeah, we have continuity jokes now, so people that are actually listening to every podcast are gonna get that one. There's inside jokes now on its server time. Excellent.
God damn it.
That's a joke.
Okay, I think that's gonna be it here. I will say, to round that out, wrap up that discussion. It's interesting. None of us picked stars, and we all picked IGLs. And I think that's just kind of what the landscape has shown us with Counter-Strike over the years now, that IGLs can continuously rise to the top, but star players like Cold, for example, like you could be the best in the world, like, and Olaf. And Get right now, you can be the best in the world for a while, but the game might leave you behind in a way or another, like one way or another.
You can only control so much.
Yeah, as an individual star player, you can't control the entire game. So I think that's going to wrap things up here. Thanks. Oh wait, don't stop the recording, Protogo, if you have it. But Bleh, do you have anything you want to shout out?
No, not really. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I like talking Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike's great. It's 2:30 a.m. and I'm wide awake. I'm probably going to play some matchmaking and hate myself because of that. Thank you.
Terrible idea.
Great. So maybe your shout out should be to Valve to fix matchmaking.
Not gonna happen. EU matchmaking is so fucking easy. I play EU matchmaking 180 ping and I rank up easy.
Oh, good to hear. I'm gonna have a good time while I'm here. I'm gonna have a great time. I'm already pugging a bit. It's really, really easy. Other than having to listen to like 3 Russians on a team, it's really easy. This is a new experience for me. But Mix, do you have anything you want to plug?
I'm just gonna shout out Alex and only Alex.
The Colossus Alex.
Yeah,
C9
the Colossus
Alex. Okay.
That's it.
All right.
No reason, just because.
Okay. Note. What do you got?
I just like how you think that the way you're going to get Valve to change matchmaking is at the end of a 2-hour podcast with Bleh.
Valve, fucking fix your matchmaking. There you go. Boom. A little bit more emotions.
Listening, Gabe.
That's going to be the teaser video. That's going to be the teaser video for Twitter. We're gonna cut that one, and we're just gonna hey, if you guys are interested in what this podcast is about, this is what Bleh had to offer. And it's going to be that. It's just going to be no one's going to have any idea after listening to that what this thing is about. So that's all the more reason for them to tune in. All right, cool. I have nothing to plug either other than watch Flashpoint and watch this episode 5 times over again, but turn ads on. Thanks, guys.